Welcome to Digital Dominators, the podcast that helps small business owners grow their confidence, sharpen their digital skills, and actually enjoy showing up online. I'm Sue Jung, your host, tech coach, and digital cheerleader, and every week I chat with brilliant experts to bring you practical tips, smart strategies, and the tools and tech to make business easier. From social media marketing to websites, content to confidence, AI to automation, we're breaking it down into simple steps you can actually use. If you're ready to make things simpler and more successful in your digital world, you're in the right place. Let's get stuck in. Welcome to Digital Dominators, the podcast where we dive into the digital skills, systems, and strategies that help your business thrive online. Today, we're tackling a platform that can feel like both your best friend and your biggest frustration: Instagram. Whether you're pouring your heart into reels, carousels, or stories, the truth is without the right strategy, you might be making mistakes that are quietly holding your business back. So today's episode is all about the 5 Instagram mistakes that are costing you and what to do about them. And joining me is someone who knows this inside out, Abigail Mills, founder of Rose and Thistle Social. Abigail helps business owners stop posting just for the sake of it and start using Instagram with purpose. Through her content audits, coaching, and strategy support, she helps brands show up in a way that's aligned, impactful, and most importantly, gets results. Her approach is rooted in strategy but delivered with empathy. She knows what it's like to feel overwhelmed by content creation, and she's built her business around helping others feel clear, confident, and consistent. In this episode, we're breaking down the 5 most common Instagram mistakes Abigail sees every day, and she's giving us actionable tips to fix them. Let's dive in. Hi, Abigail.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to have you
Good.
on the podcast today. So I always find it's interesting. People are sitting there going, "Oh my God," when I'm reading out that bio. So what I like to do is to have the guest introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what brought you into creating Rose and Thistle. So what's brought that journey into here to where you are today?
Yes, so 5 years ago, I set up an Instagram blog to learn about marketing because I have no formal marketing experience technically. When I first started, I had a 5 year music degree and got chucked into a head of marketing role with no marketing experience. So it's a bit wild. So I set up an Instagram blog that I basically documented my journey and what I was learning. I started building a community. It was peak pandemic time, so like I think it was like April or even summer 2020, this was all
Mm.
happening. And I was just learning. Everyone else was. I was starting to build a community. About a year later, next thing I know, I have businesses messaging asking if I do social media kind of management and things for them. And I was like, oh, maybe there's something here in this. So I decided to take the plunge, onboard some clients. At the time, I had 3 part-time jobs as well. So then I just started to whittle them down. Yeah, it was wild. And next thing I know, I was fully self-employed. I was freelancing through my previous brand, which was Marketing in Scotland, because I thought that was really good for
Okay.
SEO purposes to be called Marketing in Scotland. And then August 2023 came, and I decided, let's make this a bit more professional, go limited, and launch Rose and Thistle Social Limited.
Wow. Amazing. 5 years then, right? It doesn't seem like COVID was 5 years ago, but it totally was. It's
I
mental, isn't
know,
it?
I know.
Firstly, music degree. I have a music degree as well. Did you?
No
Yeah. So tell me. Let's talk a little bit about that first
way.
of all. Where did you study? What did you do? Music.
Yes, so I went up to Aberdeen in 2015 for 4 years. Started off in performance. Actually initially thought I was going to be a music teacher. Realized that was not the vibe for me. So went into performance, and then when I got to third year, I realized that I don't actually like performance either, and went into composition. So did that, and then I did my masters at the University of Glasgow and did composition and creative practice there for a year.
Amazing. What's your instrument?
Piano and clarinet was my instruments, and then I used to
Amazing.
write music that was like a bit wild, a bit out there. I wasn't going to be the next Taylor Swift, put it that way, but yeah, it was quite creepy. So much so that I had a lecturer once ask if I was like mentally stable. I was like, I am fine, I promise. I just like writing wild things.
I think that's because you probably got that from a Glasgow uni lecturer, probably that question, maybe?
I
Or
think
was
I
it
got
Aberdeen?
it was Aberdeen, but I think the guy in
Interesting.
Glasgow was also a bit concerned.
Well, I studied at Strathclyde Music. I did applied music, so I specialised in industry. So I
Yes,
focused on recording, sound production, music and film, music and computers, and all of the stuff that makes like all the tech stuff of like
yeah,
running
that
a
makes
music.
sense.
It does. And so we started on IMAX at that time, and that
Yeah,
was like the colour kind of dome
yes,
thing ones that were out at that time. And then at that time I was also doing some sort of like education at Strathclyde Uni as well. So I was doing mentoring at that time. And then I went to
amazing.
Japan and I taught English for 4 years after uni. And then I
Love
came
that.
back and I got a job at Apple as a trainer, teaching all the stuff that I used to do
That's
at uni,
amazing.
the music and computers, music and film recorders, and all of that
Yeah,
stuff using all the tech. And so that's why technology coaching exists in that way.
exists.
And so it's never about what you study, it's always about the skills that you gain from the
Yep.
jobs that you do. And I think being creative, which is what music is really all about, but it's creative and
Mm-hmm.
technical at the same time because you have to
100%.
follow systems with music and you follow
Mm-hmm.
patterns. You use all of your skills like listening, reading, teamwork, collaboration. You use all of that stuff,
1000%.
which makes me think that when you moved into marketing, and you can tell me this yourself, but when you moved into marketing, you were able to use all of the skills that you did that you have already from having that musical background, right?
100%. And a lot of the kind of later composition stuff I did was very tech heavy, and it was basically using like analog instruments, so like the clarinet and voice and all that, but putting it through computers to then kind of edit it from there. So I do think a lot of my like editing skills for like video content that I do now and all that does derive from back then when I was doing all that.
We need to chat maybe something
We do.
totally different about that because like that's exactly what I would do. I would do sample based music. So
Was it?
I did an album and I did a dissertation. We had to do two projects for our
Wow.
fourth year. It was a absolute killer. And so my album was all kind of sample based, using
Love this.
both analog music, putting it through music and
No
computers.
way.
Yeah,
We need
yeah,
to chat about
totally.
this. Take it offline.
Believe this is like the first time that we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
But this is why I asked that question right at the start because it's never about it's as I said, it's never about your official training in some sort of way. It's always about the other skills that are brought in that help. And I think the
Exactly.
creativity is a huge, huge part of that. Instagram has been the main platform that you work with. Talk to me about why
Yes.
Instagram is such the platform choice for you.
Yes. I think growing up, Instagram was like, oh, it kind of launched when I was like getting into social media as like a child. I know that sounds so bad, but
A
that was the
young
sort of,
person.
yes, yeah, might have been under teenage years. But anywho, enough about that. So yeah, that was like my initial platform. And back then it was very much, you post a picture, you heavy filter it, you just put it online and no one really cares. That was kind of it. And then I actually got to, I think it was actually my third year at uni, I was elected back in the day to be in the committee for the cheerleading squad. And part of my role was to manage the social media.
Right, okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Like I love posting on social media. So this will be a great part of like the role I had to do. And I fell in love there and then. This was obviously pre-reels, so we didn't have anything like that. It was still pretty much single photos, carousels, the odd story, but even then a story was just sharing what was on your grid onto your story. It was nothing kind of wildly technical like it is now. So I kind of started doing that, and then I realized just the potential that lay on Instagram. And then I loved the whole visual element and the creativity side, which all ties into kind of the previous background that we just spoke about. And when I was creating this blog to document what I was learning, I thought Instagram's a really great place to do it because people were just being a bit more flexible and freedom behind it. It wasn't as rigid as writing a blog, like on a website. It wasn't as professional as LinkedIn because I still feel like back then LinkedIn was still seen very much as like the platform to get a job and not
That's right.
kind of the freedom that's behind it now. So that was like my main reason for picking Instagram. And then when Reels launched kind of during the pandemic, I remember being like, oh, video content's not really my thing. I did a couple of TikTok dances during lockdown because I love dancing, but I mean, it was never anything serious. So when that kind of role came round, I was like, God, this is opening a whole new avenue of how you can actually talk about what it is that you do and kind of say your story over in a totally different light, which is what I fell in love with.
Yeah, I think it's the storytelling that was
Mm.
the changing factor for video content because people could see into the lives of what was happening. And I don't know if that's piggybacked from like reality TV in some sort of way.
In a
And
way, yeah.
like COVID was a time where we had no reality. Reality didn't exist. The reality was
Mm-hmm.
different than it's ever been. And so we were consuming any sort of media that was about,
Yeah,
wasn't it? And so
exactly that.
being able to create content that had some sort of real life to it, maybe
Mm-hmm.
that was the bonus of Reels launching at
I
that
think
time.
exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. And it was I suppose I also grew up in the age of like influencers starting to be a big thing and YouTubers
Mm.
was like a big thing as well. And I think it all kind of derived from there. Like I was never an avid YouTuber watcher when I was younger. But now I'm like, oh, actually, maybe like subconsciously that would have been totally my vibe when I should have dialed
Hmm.
into that a bit more. Because I think that then started to come over onto Instagram, but just in short form kind of content, which, yeah,
Yeah.
is a whole different kettle of fish as well.
So, do you find that there's a big difference between how you use Instagram personally compared to how you then would use it as running a business?
1,000%, yeah. I actually don't post that often on my personal Instagram. It's kind of the odd occasion. I mean, we've had some big life events happen this year. We got married and we've been at conferences and we've been on our honeymoon. So I've kind of used it to kind of store that kind of stuff. But other than that, I don't really use it that actively. Maybe to connect with some people that I haven't spoken to in a while. But other than that, yeah, it's nothing like how I use it for my business.
Okay, let's talk about the differences then between how you would use it for your business compared to how you're using it personally. So, if you're not using it at all, like personally, really, what's the difference then for business?
Great question. I think for me, it's the storytelling side for me that I'm really loving at the moment. And I think really building personal brands on Instagram has become a huge thing across all social media has become a huge thing now. And putting yourself out there, but not in the sense of like, here's me getting up and here's my outfit of the day, as much as that is a big part of kind of what social media's came to now. I think it's documenting like, here's actually how we've got to this point. It's not been an easy ride. Here's the ups and the downs that have kind of came along with it and being able to document that. Whereas on my personal, I would never probably talk about anything like that at all, like the kind of, I say the deep dark side of business, but I would never be that open because it's all people like I went to school with or a random person I met on one night out that we've decided to connect with online. Whereas this is pretty much like I'm building a brand on Instagram around Rose and Thistle Social, but equally around myself as well. So I want to kind of show the true side of what it's like running a business and the thoughts and feelings that I go through as a business owner, equally what I go through as a social media manager, but also what business owners go through as well. And really showing that kind of like 360 of it doesn't have to be all rainbows and roses all the time. And that kind of falls into why I love talking about these mistakes that people make because a lot of them are such an easy fix and it's just a little mindset shift or getting told like it's okay to do this. Like you don't feel guilty because you're not posting 7 times a day, 3 times a week or whatever. That's okay. You don't need to be doing things like that.
I can't wait to get stuck into the mistakes that people make. But I know that just from a personal point of view, I started Instagram when it came out back in like 2009, 2010, and it was heavily in 2011 when I was at Apple because we could all have an Instagram gallery at that
Yeah.
time. This was before Meta bought it, and it was all like, who's got an Instagram gallery? Who's going to sell their pictures on the gallery, right? So it was just purely about connecting with imagery and really good
Mm.
photography. And that was just opening up the world to people at that time. But then when I set up my business, it was about using Instagram to talk about what it is that technology coaching does. And at that time, and
Mm,
the reason I'm mentioning this is because I know a lot of people that are listening will probably have a similar experience with the platform
yeah,
where you would never talk about anything personal on your business page to do with
yeah,
your business. And this is still the biggest mindset shift that not only I suffer from, but I know a lot of other businesses and bigger conglomerates as well that
yeah.
struggle with how to use these really highly social platforms and media based platforms, which is Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, really, as the three main big media ones of visual
Mm,
media. Facebook, you can kind of get away with articles and sharing blog posts and things like
yeah,
that, and a little bit of imagery. I know that they're taking away videos and they're doing reels now on Facebook, so it
yes,
might be
yeah.
the strategy for there. However, but yeah, this is one of so before we get into the mistakes, can you just give a little bit of advice to people that are still in that mindset of can't do personal branding in the same way? How do I shift into that, putting myself out there on my Instagram compared to just being a bit what's how do you do that? Talk about
Yes,
that.
so I think for a lot of people, the first thing I always say is actually take a kind of like reality check of how much do you actually want to share on these platforms. For example, I know a lot of people get a bit like iffy about showing their kids online, for example. Like you need to decide like, okay, I'm happy with showing like this much, but like this side is keeping private and that's okay. And we don't need to tell like if you don't want to share the fact that you've had a mental breakdown last week, like you don't have to if that's not your vibe, it doesn't fit with your kind of values and what you want to be showing online. You don't have to be doing that because I think a lot of people are now doing this thing where it's like, and do you know what, hands up, I did it the other week. I had a bit of a wobble post being at kind of Atomicon and just the hype and drive that I'd been through, and then had an absolute crash the following week. And I did document it, and the support I got out there was incredible actually. People that I hadn't spoke to in ages were reaching out, and yeah, I started to see a big, it sounds so bad to say, but I've seen a huge increase in engagement off the back of it because people were like, wow, I feel like that too. And it started to stir up some conversation. So you can be that open, but if you don't want to be, equally it's all right. And if you just want to be showcasing more of the kind of business side of your personal brand, that's all right as well. So documenting when you go to events, when you meet new people, maybe you've got a new lead that you've just signed up and you're celebrating that. It can be as little as that. It doesn't have to be, oh, it's little Jimmy's birthday and he's 6 today and look, we're out at Edinburgh Castle and it's all rosy and great, when actually on the other side you're like, oh God, I can't be bothered going to Edinburgh Castle today and I just want to be in my bed, but it's with Joey's birthday and like you don't have to show that if you don't want to.
Okay, so it's about separating or making a checklist with yourself almost of what
Yeah.
you want to showcase online to not being. So how do you do that from like a business perspective though? So maybe you're a small business but has like a team of 10, and
Mm.
how do you then showcase what the business does but it's all about you being part of the business that so how do you navigate something like that? Like you've got the business is running, but you are the main person in the business, kind of, but you're not because it's a business. It's really hard to kind of work out what do I do here? What's some strategies for posting for that?
Yeah. So I would say nowadays a big thing is the kind of EGC space, which is your employee generated content. There's a lot of this coming in. You've probably seen it through like Marks and Spencers, for example, have got quite good at it where they bring employees in to kind of get their face out there. The other really good account that's quite good at it as well is, and she was at Atomicon, is Rachel Harris from accountant
Mm.
underscore she on Instagram. She's really good. She is the face of kind of her accountant she brand, but she actually has a £2 million accountancy business with her husband. And every so often you see her on her grid posting reels that's actually including all the team members. Like she just took all her team members out to, I think it was Majorca, Portugal. Geography is rubbish. Some sunny country she just took her team out to. And they've been making content and showcasing that through her personal branding Instagram, but that is getting her clients, and she's got like a list of people waiting to work with her in her accountancy firm. And that's doing it on a, bless her, she knows that accountancy is a dull subject, but like that's doing it on a really dull subject, but she's made it so exciting.
Mm.
Any brand and business can do it, of just getting yourself in a space where even if you pick 4 or 5 employees that are like quite competent at being on camera, they don't mind, and you can make some fun content for socials there. I think a lot of people forget, especially Instagram, people come on there to be entertained as well as, maybe searching for new things. And I was actually in a research focus group last night for a client who's looking at starting her business journey and things. And it was all women about the menopausal age that do high flying corporate jobs. And interestingly, when the girl asked, okay, what kind of platform would you be searching for this kind of support on? They all said, oh, I'd turn to Instagram to find it. And I thought that's so interesting, because I don't think, if you'd said that maybe 5 years ago, I do not think people would have said, I'll be turning to Instagram to find information on how I can better my health and well-being and all that kind of thing. I think they would have been like, I'll jump on Google and see what comes up. I might pop into a local Facebook group or just ask my friends in the WhatsApp group. But they were saying like, oh, I turned to Instagram to find these people that are industry leaders who are giving value online, but keeping us entertained at the same time, so that I can build that trust with them. I can DM. You get instant access to these people through DMs. It's not
Yeah.
like, back in the day when you only seen, I say celebrities, but even like influencers or things, I suppose, like you couldn't ever access them. Whereas now you can drop these people messages on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, and that barrier to entry is a bit lower to get access to these industry experts.
I think that it's the one platform where the experts do chat, they chat
Yeah.
back,
Yes.
or the people that you follow that you think are so far removed from you chat
Mm-hmm.
back to you, and you
Yeah.
go, oh, and I think those kind of celebrity crush feels that you have
Yes,
when you
yeah,
were younger.
100%,
I
100%.
know you put a video out about that recently.
Yeah.
Of your younger days of
Yes,
trying to get in front of the people that
all the
you admired
celebs.
the most,
Yep,
and now that barrier to entry almost has disappeared with it
100%.
being on with Instagram. And I
Yeah.
noticed it because I'm a big Below Deck fan, and I had Captain like my comment, and I screenshotted it and I posted it on my stories because I was like, oh my god, he loves my comment. That is really exciting. So
Yeah.
again, that kind of barrier,
Isn't
if
it
you
so
think some,
funny?
it's so funny in that way. But isn't that an opportunity for businesses and brands then? So I suppose I'm reflecting back to my own question of like, how do you separate from being the business to having that kind of personal brand on Instagram? It's really the people behind it, right?
1,000%. 1,000%.
People that are out there. So, what are the types of businesses that you tend to support then, Abigail? Is it like service based or product based business, or is it a mixture of the two? Is the strategy different for them?
Great question. So I predominantly work with service-based businesses, and it is purely because the strategy behind them is so different. Product businesses nowadays, it is not as easy as just taking pretty product photos and post them on your Instagram. Pretty much doesn't work anymore. People want to see how the product's getting used, they want to see it in action, and they don't want to see it in a nice, polished, clean video. They want to see Jessica in her bathroom with this new face serum that she's got, her actually using it live and talking you through the exact benefits it's giving her you the before and afters. That's the kind of stuff that's doing well for products now. It's seeing the products live in action from general public. Even nowadays, I would say the whole influencing world is completely changed to what it was even I say 5 years ago, but even less than that probably. It used to be, every brand wanted Molly May behind them because she's got this massive following and anything she touches will turn to money and all this kind of thing. Whereas now people want tiny creators almost, really like under 5K followers, even less, I would say, that have got a really nice engaged audience of people that trust them and know that the products example that they're talking about are actually beneficial and actually work, and then they're more likely to buy because they trust that person. They're not going to just endorse a product because they're getting paid 10 grand to do it.
It's real life. People
Yep,
want real life, and they can see themselves in that
thousand
person.
percent. Yeah,
When I was younger, and when I was in teenage years, it was still magazines and it was
yeah,
still supermodels in the 90s. And so that was something you could never relate to in any way. They
yeah,
were so far removed
yeah.
from that were selling us products or services, or products, I should say. And I could never like think that that was right for me,
Yeah,
because I could
exactly
never see
that.
myself in that. So I think this opportunity of having your business show people, real life people
Yeah,
using your products in that way, is really resonated with buyers in a
yeah.
way. So how does that differ for service-based businesses then? So we talked about products. What's the strategy that's different for services?
So for me personally, I take the approach of the personal brand approach when it comes to services and really just showcasing that storytelling element. And I think definitely for product brands, it's becoming more of an aspect. I don't know if you've followed the brand Salt recently. It's like SULT. It's like an electrolyte brand, and they've basically documented building their journey through Instagram and just like documenting every stage of the product kind of development stage, etc., etc. And I think that derives from how services were developing their businesses on Instagram and showing that documenting of like here's the value aspects and like here's like the educational content and the fun stuff and all that kind of side, and then it's kind of driving into then using client testimonials, but not just your basic text written testimonial that someone's dropped on Google reviews. It's actually getting to the nitty gritty and down to here's how Jenny felt before she came to me. It's that storytelling element. Here's what we did, and look what she's doing now. And it's going deeper into it. And I think a lot of service based businesses forget to put one themselves at the front of the brand so that people can build that trust with them, because ultimately people are now buying into the person. They're not buying, for example, people don't buy into Rose and Thistle Social Limited. They buy into me and what I'm doing. So it's making sure that people are still putting themselves at the front of the brand, but equally putting the audience in front of them. So there's almost like a couple of layers behind it. So I always say, like, people needs to be the focus, and that needs to be you as the business owner need to be up there, showing that you're the expert, showing this is why you are the best in your field at what you do, but equally addressing the needs of what your audience want as well.
Okay, so getting testimonials from your customers if you're a service based business. But what are some ways that you as a business owner can then put out content? What type of content can you put out? Is it reels? Is it carousel? Like what is the way that, let's say I'm going to do this for
Yep.
technology coaching? What would you advise?
So a lot of it derives from what your bigger business goal is. And it's the first thing I always kind of sit down and speak to business owners about. Approach when I'm working with people is I take 4 weeks to onboard people. Some people think that's excessive. I personally don't, because I need to get into the head of the business owner. I need to know what's actually the goal outside of business. Like, is there like a life goal that they're trying to achieve? How is the business supporting them doing that? What services are they putting on offer? Have they got new things launching? Like, there's a whole element that goes into social media and actually marketing in general that people maybe don't think about under the surface. So I need to get to know this side. So once we kind of learn where they're going, what the direction is they're taking, I then start to look at, okay, are we in the kind of audience growth phase? Like maybe you're starting from zero. So we know that we need to be doing some more reels because that's going to increase our reach. We need to be doing some more outreach and engaging because again, that's going to get our name out there. We need to be looking at what the big wigs are doing in the field. How can we replicate and use some of their network to actually benefit us? For example, commenting on their posts and getting into their circles, etc. So there's that kind of bottom layer. Then it's addressing, okay, you've got the followers in, how do we kind of keep them nurtured and entertained and not just feeding them with the basic knowledge that's just getting people in through the door. So that's where I would say the carousels start to come into play. You can be really educational and get really into the nitty gritty of things through carousels that are just a bit more easier to digest than sitting watching maybe a 30, 45 second video. So that's your sort of nurture layer in there. I would say in that line as well, stories kind of falls into that kind of nurture phase of getting the kind of behind the scenes stuff and what it's like to be in the business and how you're running the day to day of things as well. So that feeds in there quite well. And then you've obviously got your top layer, which is your selling. People are ready to buy from you. They've trusted you. They've engaged with your content now for quite a while. And I'd say the number one place, and it is one of my five mistakes, is selling on stories. That is where the money is on Instagram because you can get people straight into your DMs, and that is where the conversions are happening.
So I really like the way that you explained that strategy, and I'm going to make sure that I write that down after we've done this session as well, because it is really about, and it really summed up there as kind of four major steps there, or
Hmm.
four parts of that funnel, pyramid, whatever
Yeah.
way of being able to create content for it. But I have seen, and it's interesting because you say this is one of the mistakes, but I see that my engagement and reach goes up the more stories and the more story. If I don't have content going out, but if I've got stories going out, that massively impacts the reach. So using automation, do you build in automation for your clients as well, using things like ManyChat for
Have
part
in
of
the
that as well?
past. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So in the past, I've used ManyChat as a great way just to get that one engagement going on their
Hmm.
posts, but to make that process, for example, for freebie downloads, I always think it's really good for that kind of thing,
Yeah, me too.
where they can say, and I used it recently or in the last couple of months when the whole AI doll thing became a
Yeah.
trend. And it's funny because it also falls into the thing of you think everyone knows everything, but they actually don't. So I'd seen this AI doll trend. I was maybe 3 days in. So for 3 days, I'd been seeing people posting about it and DM me doll and you'll get the prompt. And I was like, oh, okay. Am I too late on the bandwagon? I feel like I might be, but I kind of had this bit of a, I don't know if I can swear, but the F it approach.
Hmm. Hmm.
I thought, you know what, I'm going to put it out and we'll see what happens. To this date, I think it's one of my most engaged posts since pandemic. And I got something ridiculous, like, oh, maybe over 100 comments on it of people wanting this prompt. And that was me thinking I'm too late into the trend as such, when actually I was probably just right before that cusp before it kind of exploded. And I used the DM me the word doll and you can get the prompt. And I didn't have to reply to 100 comments because ManyChat had sent them the prompt. People were then replying to it. A couple of days later, if I'd seen people had used it, I'd say, oh, how did you get on with it? Like, your post looked really good. So I was able to continue that conversation.
Hmm.
But equally, it then replied to their comment of doll for me. So again, I didn't have to even lift a finger in doing that because
Yeah.
AI had taken that job for me, which was a godsend.
As a creator, I used to spend hours re recording voiceovers to get the perfect tone. But finding reliable voice talent, booking studio time, and editing takes forever, and it can break the bank. That's why I recommend 11 Labs. It generates ultra realistic AI voices and even clones your own, all in seconds. With natural sounding speech, multilingual support, and seamless text to speech conversion, 11 Labs powers podcasts, audiobooks, training modules, and more. No mic required. Ready to level up your audio? Try it free today at allmylink.me/TC11labs and bring your scripts to life with 11 Labs. ManyChat is one of those tools that I don't think people are understanding or using enough. And even last week, I gave
100%.
a ton of templates to another social media marketing company to be able to help their clients because she was like, Suze, it's taking 6 hours for me to do this. And I was like, I'll just give you a template. And then we did it that way. So
Yeah.
it's so much easier to just get these set up and then just turn them on when a trending
Yes.
thing happens. And I love that the fact that just by having that comment on underneath that prompt for ManyChat automation, it was then putting more comments, right? And it's the comments that
Yep.
drive the
Exactly.
more engagement, the more reach, which then
Yep. It
gets
was
the
pushing my
better
post out
visibility for
further.
people. Yeah.
Yep.
So easy strategy, staying on top of it, getting the fundamentals in place to then turn it on when these
Yes.
things are active. So let's go back to that first mistake that you mentioned there is selling on stories. Let's talk about that and then let's move into your other mistakes of the
Yes.
top 5 mistakes costing your business and how to fix them. So the first one is
Yeah.
selling on stories, right? What's that?
Yeah. So I can't tell you how many business owners I've spoke to who do not utilize stories to make money. This is where money is on Instagram. And it's funny because I was down, I think it was the end of last year, I was down in London at a speaking event at Soho House, and it was a bunch of mums who were in businesses who we were speaking to. And there's another social media strategist who was on the panel. And I was saying to this, I was like, I don't think people realize the value in selling on stories. And And she was like, oh, I think I still get conversions on the grid though. And, da, da, da. And I was like, oh, I'm not great, but it's not sustainable. People can't, or business owners who are busy, cannot be sitting there generating grid posts to make money. Like, we just don't have time. We don't have time. And I
And we
know
don't
that
have
firsthand.
control over it either. We
Yeah.
don't have control. We know that people
Whereas,
consume stories really quickly and they
yeah,
take action because their thumb is triggered on that straight away.
and that's it. And that's it. Because I don't know if you're the same, but I know, and I've spoken to a few people who are the same. The first bit I go to on Instagram when I log in is stories. I don't
Me
even
too.
think about flicking through the grid.
I
So
don't do that
already, if you're,
anymore. I'm very much on
no,
stories all the time. Yeah.
yeah. So if you're, let's say it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you posted a post at 8 o'clock this morning selling your service, the chances are people aren't going to see that. But if you then made a story at 8 a.m. and it's 4 o'clock and these people are engaged with your stuff, your story will be prioritized on their list because they're a bit more engaged, they love looking what you're doing, and it's setting up a sequence that makes it natural then to sell. So I always think the best way to do it is start with a bit of the more lifestyle, behind the scenes kind of content. So your first story of the day can be, here's my schedule, here's what I've got happening today. How's your Monday going, for example? You've got a little poll there. People can say, it's a busy one, it's looking a bit quieter today, I just want it to be Friday, or I can't believe the weekend's over. You're getting that engagement on there. The more people vote on that poll, again, the more likely your story gets prioritized in other people's feeds. So you're starting to build that momentum. Your next story can then be talking about, well, I was speaking to a client yesterday and they were saying XYZ. So let's just do a bit of storytelling here, almost like that testimonial journey that I was talking about earlier, starting to talk about that problem, but in a way that's relatable to people. It's not just like, are you, I don't know, for example, are you struggling with social media? Like, that's a bit vague. Whereas if I was like, I was speaking to Christine yesterday and she was saying that she was noticing that not a lot of people were voting on her polls, prime example. I can then tell that story across a couple of slides of how we went about and fixed that, and said, if you're experiencing the same thing, tap on this emoji at the end and I'll give you some top tips. So that's building that trust phase. There then, if they tap on the emoji, I can get into the DMs. Okay, what was happening on your last poll? What were you talking about? Let's break that down a bit further. Chatting. The next thing they know, they're normally saying, oh, it'd be good if we could chat about this a bit further. You can jump on a call, you can start selling to them, money in the bank. It can be as simple as that. So I was chatting to actually one of the social media managers that I was mentoring over the last 12 weeks, and I was introducing her to the whole selling on stories. And I gave her this template and I said, give it a shot, see what happens, because I really think you're going to get some really great results from this. She had never done anything like this before. Uploaded the sequence, I think it's maybe 6 stories long. She then got 18 inquiries coming in for her service and managed to convert 10 of them. That's how
Wait,
powerful.
18,
18
18
leads.
messages
Yep.
and then converted 10 of them?
Yeah. That's how
That's like
powerful
what?
stories is.
A 55 to 60% conversion rate?
Mm-hmm.
That's unheard of.
Yeah. Crazy, right? Because her audience were waiting. She just hadn't told them how they could work with her. She gave a real life example of how she changed a business owner's business and the results she'd got them, and then had to put at the end saying, here's how you can work with me. They tapped on the emoji, they went onto her stand store, and she's got given me the data where I can see this is how many people inquired. And she was like, yeah, I managed to convert a whole chunk of them.
That's insane. Just before we move on to the next mistake, just about that stand store and those links.
Yes.
So, link in bio, right? For Instagram. Link in bio. How do I share links? Can't share links in my comments. Do link in bio. Most people have a link tree. I've got tap link because I've got lifetime access to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking this morning, because we're moving into TikTok strategy as well, I'm like, Stan Store? Do I move to Stan Store?
Quite a big one.
What would you choose? What would you recommend? Are there different reasons why for using those different links?
Do you know, I
Options.
think a lot of people who use Stan, like I personally don't use Stan Store, but I know a lot of people that do use it tend to not have a website, and that's what they use as their website. So
Got you.
normally that's what I would say most people do. I've heard great things about it, and I know people that get really good kind of conversions through it. And I know it's hot on the press right now that Stephen Bartlett's just invested into it. So
I know, and all the TikTokers are using it.
yeah,
So I think that's partly why I was like, but I have a website and we have payment gateways set up on the website. So why do I need to add another one to it?
I'm the same.
Is my thinking right now. Use what you've got, right? Keep it super
100%.
simple, as I say. Okay,
100%
so that's answered that question for me. But amazing. So a 6 story
sequence.
sequence to 18 leads, immediate buys, and then you can nurture them
Yeah,
after.
yeah,
Oh my God. So, first mistake, sell in stories.
yes.
Don't sell in stories. Do sell in stories, right?
Selling stories, get them into your DMs because that's where the conversions are happening.
So, do you need to have stories going out every single day?
Great question. So I try and say to people to be as active as you can on them. However, it is good every so often to take a 24-hour break and let your stories refresh, because you'll then find when you post your first new one after everything's kind of ran out and timed out, you will see an increase in engagement and views.
Keep an eye on the analytics of what's
Yes. Yeah,
happening
as always.
and don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be perfect.
Does not need to be perfect. It can literally be snaps of you on a walk and just text over
Yeah.
it. It can be you just talking to candidly to the camera if you're more comfortable doing that. It doesn't have to be go on Canva or Adobe Express and document all this and make pretty graphics. It's going to take me like 6 hours to make and then post it. Doesn't have to be that.
Me as a busy business owner and a dog owner, I am either at my computer or out walking the dog. And so the only time that I would usually have is to do stories like that is when I'm out walking the dog.
Yep, perfect time.
What I don't really have time to do is to even create reels or stuff like that anymore. I'm running at capacity. So as a busy business owner, our strategy is the way. Sorry, the
I was like,
strategy
yeah.
to take. Strategies are the way. Stories are the strategy to take, right? Okay, good.
Yeah, if you don't have time to post on the grid and do reels and things, at least keep active on stories.
Okay, cool. Checkbox, done. First mistake. Second mistake that people make on Instagram.
And it falls really nicely into this is consistency. So
Okay.
everyone thinks consistency means posting all the time. I think we've been drilled into us that consistency is I have to post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe Saturday, Sunday. It needs to be at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. It needs to be at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. It needs to be at 9 a.m. on a Monday. And the lovely Kim, it's a load of bollocks. You really don't need to be doing that. For a lot of, like you said, business owners do not have time to be posting 5, 7 times a week, 2 times a day, whatever that may be. And I have a really good definition of consistency, and I should have actually brought it up. But essentially, kind of bare bones of it is if you were to Google the actual meaning of consistency, it just means to be repeating things in the same pattern over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That could be 1 post per week. That could be 2 posts per week. It could be 1 post on the grid per week and maybe a story every second day. As long as you stick to that pattern for a consistent amount of time, I always say 3 months is a really good time to kind of
Yeah, I'm
overview
like
it.
12 weeks.
Yep.
12 weeks.
Yep.
Get your 12-week in play. You don't know what works until you've done it for 12 weeks.
1,000%. So do it for the 12 weeks and then have a look. Okay, I seen that maybe the reels did really well, but this kind of style carousel didn't do so well. I can tweak things and I can go from there. Or I notice that carousels right now aren't working for me because the audience maybe isn't there yet to be nurtured. So I know that once a week I need to just be focusing actually on putting reels out for a bit longer before I start nurturing them through carousels. That is I would say this is probably my number one mistake, is that people think and they get overwhelmed because everyone's saying you need to be visible, you need to be pushing content out all the time, and you need to be across 6 platforms and no, double down on one to begin with, because as business owners, you didn't start your business to become a social media manager or a marketer. Equally, how we didn't do this to become HR, sales, finance, etc., etc. We did it because we had a passion for the thing that we deliver. So we need to make the barrier to entry as easy as we can and not overcommit ourselves. Because I don't know if you've done this before, but I always say, like, it gets to Sunday night and I'm like, right, I'll do 5 posts this week and it's going to be amazing. I miss out on day 2 or 3 And then I go in this downward spiral of I'm a
Yep.
failure, I've not committed to myself, I may as well pack in my business now because no one's going to like me because they don't see me, and da, 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 da. You get in that sad spiral and then you don't want to do it ever again.
Or you forget and then you're like, oh, I need to start it again. It's the same way as like people think everything starts on a
Yeah.
Monday and it really doesn't. And so, like, that exact thing that you mentioned there was like yesterday for me because I was like, oh shit, I haven't scheduled out my posts. So I'll schedule them out. But if I do this with Meta Business Suite, which leads on to my question, Meta Business Suite will always tell me when's the best time to post for that day. So I tend to put the schedule out for that one. And I don't really know if it is the best or not, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
just doing what the platform's
Tells.
telling me to do. So is there something in that? Should I be doing what the platform's telling me to do? Should I not be doing what the platform's telling me to do? What do you think?
Super interesting. So I know obviously Instagram also does really similar. If you go into your analytics, it gives you like this little graph of when times are most popular. But I think people forget that it's taking account. So for example, I've got 3.4 thousand, I think it is, followers right now. And I know that a percentage of them aren't in like our time zone.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's also giving me data for people that are halfway across the world. So it's telling me that I need to be posting at 4 in the morning. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's not really actually sustainable for my audience that I want to be targeting. So I don't really want to be targeting the people at 4 in the morning right now. I want to be targeting the busy business owner who's just done the school run. So maybe 8 o'clock. Could that be a good time for them? Possibly. But actually, lunchtime is probably better for them, or before maybe they're sitting in the car waiting to pick up their child. So that's a good time to get into them. So maybe like 3:15 is a better time for me. Or the kids are now in bed, it's 9 o'clock, they're doing scrolling. Is that a better
Yeah.
time for me to be posting? So I think it's really actually getting to know your audience and their habits as
Mm.
opposed to trusting everything that the platform's saying.
And the platform, you have no control over when the content goes out and when it's shown to them because it's how that individual interacts with the content anyway, right?
That's it.
So I suppose it's making it work around you and your business
Yep.
as well as so okay, number one, be consistent on your stories, right? Just
Yep.
make sure you're putting stories out, but don't worry too much about the grid stuff, about posting when it tells you to or not.
Yep.
Try it, test the strategy or
Yeah.
not.
It's all
It's
about
telling you
testing.
to do it and see what works or not. And I think that's one of the problems that people face when it comes to any sort of marketing, especially on social media, is that there's no rule book, there's
Yep.
no guidance, there's strategies, and everyone wants a quick fix because
Mm-hmm.
humans are, I'm not going to say lazy, but we're all going to find a quicker way to do things,
Yep.
a shortcut. That's the
Yes.
word I was looking for. We're always looking for shortcuts. And so everybody's always got 1,000 shortcuts that's maybe worked for them. And
Yeah.
then they sell that as a service or a product.
Mm-hmm.
My ways to do this. But again, you just got to work it out. See what's going to work with your audience,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
Interesting. Okay, so next mistake then. So what's that?
It is that people don't utilize the bio, that top section of your Instagram, the bio section, your name and username. They don't utilize it enough to speak to their ideal audience.
Okay.
So I don't know if I imagine you will know this, but just in case some of the listeners don't, that top section of your Instagram profile is SEO friendly. Instagram uses that section to find what it is you're searching for. So we need to make sure that that section is as keyword filled, not stuffed. We don't want to be just stuffing random words in for the sake of SEO. It needs to make sense. But that needs to be the juicy information of if people were to search for a technology coach or a social media manager or a florist or whatever that may be, that information's in there so that you come up first.
And how do you think this is changing with Meta AI really bringing those prompts underneath
Mm,
or within the search bar? So you'll see it on Facebook, they sit underneath
yes.
the images, and then on Instagram, they're heavily within the search bar. That button's right at the right thumb on WhatsApp.
Yes.
So, how are you seeing because you mentioned about people are using Instagram as a search function to find their solutions to their problems,
Mm-hmm.
really, which you mentioned around that kind of that menopause support earlier. But the search function with SEO, because I had a chat with Jules previously about who does SEO. It's all about like how's AI? What do you think is going to happen with the Meta AI with that? with the search
Great
function?
question. Do you know what? I've not fully looked into it yet,
Hmm.
um, but it is on my agenda to actually have a look at soon because, yeah, there's a lot happening in that
I don't know if
space.
there's information out there yet, so that's why I'm asking the
Yeah,
question, because it's still pretty new,
yeah,
right? It's still pretty new, this Meta AI. And with next year, so this podcast, your episode will go out this year, but next year with 2020 Meta AI platform,
yes,
ads platform is going to go out. I
yes.
think that's going to have a big game changer
Yeah.
too,
So
right?
I've been dabbling in a bit of ads just now, and they are pushing for a lot of this. Like I put in some of the headlines that I was using for some of the ads, and already it's been like, here's 5 suggestions from Meta AI. Some of them I was like, okay, don't mind them. And it's like ChatGPT. It's all the same with all these platforms, isn't it? You just have to look and think, but is that actually what I want to say? And is that actually how I would say it? Is that what my audience wants? And I think
Hmm.
it's good at giving you, I started to notice a pattern in the keywords it was using. So I was like, okay, well, I now know that I need to be using then those keywords because that's what it's picked up from the content. So I think it's great for that kind of thing. But yeah, with everything, you just need to give it the human touch, don't you?
Yeah, you need to go and review
Yes.
and
Yeah.
audit what the AI is telling you at
Yes.
all times. And even Meta is still learning, even though it's learning from our data,
Yep.
it's learning. But I do like the fact it's giving you options. So how does that reflect into your bio, not keyword stuffing it? Do you think maybe, I'm just thinking out loud, maybe we can brainstorm this together, searching for that first on Instagram, what people might be searching for and what you provide, what the results may come back, and adding that as your in your bio,
Yeah,
maybe.
100%. So definitely doing the research behind kind of if you were to put what you do in there, what's coming up, what the kind of top 10 people coming up and what's in their bios and what's in their names. Especially that name section, you'll see if you go into my Instagram, it's like Abigail, and then it's got a little line, social media manager and mentor. And that's like the key things, obviously, that I do because I know that my business owners that I work with, they're searching for social media manager, not social media management or social media consultancy. It's social media manager that they're searching for because that's who they want to work with. So I've got that in there. And then that next section of the actual bio, I'm there to try and like, it's that classic, like to sell myself and what makes me different and what makes me unique and why I'm different from the next social media manager you find. So it's making sure that in there it's descriptive, but it's equally telling them like the outcomes that you're going to give them. So they know that I'm a social media manager and they found me through that. What kind of social media manager am I? So my bio right now says that I turn service providers into industry leaders who want to stand out, sell more, and become impossible to ignore on social
Mm.
media. That gives you in a nutshell, okay, she's helping me get leads because she's helping me sell more. She's putting me out as the industry leader. How is she doing that? You can kind of go through my Instagram and see that I do a lot of personal branding. So the types of things I'll probably be doing with you is getting you in front of the camera and doing some talking head stuff and telling your story and sharing your journey and your clients' journeys. So you
Mm.
can gauge all of that all from that top bit of my Instagram bio. And then I've got a section that says that I mentor freelance social media managers who are looking for support. And then what I try and do, if there's enough space, because it's not a lot of characters to
So
get all
many
this in,
characters, not at all.
is then trying to get a call to action to that link in your bio, where it is like book a call, DM me for information, whatever that may be, to then try and drive people traffic into whatever that link in bio is driving to.
And it's great because you can add multiple links now.
Yes.
So that's one of the benefits of the constant changes that Instagram makes.
Yep.
And so you do things one way for a while and then they update it and you're like, God damn it.
Yep.
Because you've been following this strategy for a while. And Instagram, like this year, it went through so many iterations of changes
So
that we
much.
couldn't keep on top of it, could we, at all? Okay, so that's good. Keywords in bio. That was
Yes.
our third mistake here. What's our fourth one then, Abigail?
And it's something we've actually covered already, but it's not mixing up the type of content that you're putting out there. I think a lot of people are either they're stuck in a sort of a couple of camps where it's like, I need to do reels and reels is the only way forward and it must be reels, reels, reels all the time and da da da. Or it's like, well, I don't have time to do reels, so I'll just chuck some random graphics out and you just kind of keep going, going, going. But it's crickets happening, there's silence happening, no one's engaging because you're really just posting random stuff on your grid for the sake of getting it out. And it's again, we spoke about it in that pyramid funnel sequence that we were talking about, where it's like you just need to know at what stage the buyers are at. So if you know, or the goals that you're trying to achieve, if you're trying to get more people to see your brand, okay, yeah, then I need to put in the reels. If I'm trying to nurture, yeah, I need to do some more carousels. If it's maybe you just wanting to do like a little promo graphic of something you're selling, that's where the kind of single individual photos come in. Then it's the stories and how those funnel in. Is it live so that you can do a bit more kind of audience trust building and nurturing and where all that sits into play? So a lot of people don't utilize all the features available and all the kinds of content that you can actually post on Instagram effectively.
That's really, really useful. It is a mentality, I think, that it's just get stuff out.
Yeah.
We need to get stuff out. But you've really simplified that process of what stage are they at,
Yes.
what piece of content or what type of content can meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to be at that stage anyway, but where's.
And that's it. Yeah. It's having that diversity to address every person at every stage. There's accounts, and I know you'll probably be the same, that you've followed and you follow and you follow and you keep an eye on them for even like a year before you're like, all right, okay, I'm ready to buy now because they've posted a carousel that's really resonated with me, or they've posted something that's really ticked the box that I'm looking for right now.
Yeah, this might not be something that business owners want to hear, but I've found my customer journey is I'm 8 years in business at the end of this month, and people are coming back now. And that's mental to me.
Yep.
So here's me thinking, oh, I just put it out and people will buy. That's not the case.
No.
It's a long journey. It's the long game.
Yeah. Social media, and I think marketing in general, is a long game. And I think people forget that even though social media is so quick paced and fast actioning, it is still a long game in marketing. Yeah, I had someone, I'd met her at a networking event a year prior to her reaching out. So I'd met her, she wasn't even actually self-employed. She actually worked at a construction business, got made redundant, and then started working for a local garden centre firewood business. I know, the real sexy stuff she was working in, bless her. And a year later, she'd been following me on Instagram, keeping an eye out on what I was doing, never overly engaged, but I could see she was watching my stories and things. And she literally sent me a random DM almost a year to the date saying, I'm actually working with this business now. They've been trying to work with a social, like an agency, a marketing agency. It's not really working. They're not getting the vibe. I told them about you. They'd like to come in and chat with you. They're now on my client roster and have been for the last 12 months.
Wow, it's amazing. Again, your network's your net worth,
It
isn't it?
really is. It really is.
It's somebody saying, oh, you need to speak to them.
But it took
That seems
that,
to be how it works.
yeah, and it took that 12 months of her looking at my Instagram as well to then
Yeah.
know that I was at the position where I could help them.
Yeah, I had a chat with Kay Sudar. She's a podcast strategist in a previous episode, and she had a similar story of she was at an event and somebody that spoke to her went and looked at her first content, and her first content, as you know, is always rubbish,
Yeah,
right? You're always like, you're practicing and you're putting it out. It's not where it is always when people meet you and that
yeah.
person. That client ended up being a 24K client
Isn't it
with her.
crazy?
Isn't that mental?
Yeah,
But it shows it's the long game and it doesn't matter kind of what goes out,
yeah.
really, in a way,
Exactly that.
because people want to see the journey that's part of it.
Exactly that.
Amazing. Okay, are we on to number 5? Is
We
this the last
are.
one?
We are
Right,
indeed.
okay.
And again, it's something that we've briefly spoke about, and it's not using a content strategy. The age-old
No
debate.
strategy at all, right? That doesn't
Yes.
work.
Yes. And again, it's so easy for us all. And you know, it's we all slip off the bandwagon. I'll put my hands up. There's times where I jump off my strategy bandwagon and I'm just kind of posting, not for the sake of it, there's still purpose behind it, but it's not as strategically thought out as maybe the plan is when I'm in a launch period, for example. Like right now, I'm in prime launch mode and I've basically got content now planned out. Doesn't mean it's recorded and it's filmed, but I know exactly what's going out or needs to go out from what date are we even on now? June. So from the start of June up until the start of August, I know exactly what needs to go out, why it needs to go out, the formats it needs to be in to address those customers and where they are on the journey and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And that will lead to sales in my business. And a lot of people, they just like, I think a prime example is the kind of beauty and aesthetics industry where it's like, I'll just keep posting before and afters and I'll keep posting, it'll be all okay and da da da. it's like, well, that's great, but we also want to hear about, like, for example, what are you injecting in my face? What does that actually do? Like, everyone's chatting about, I don't know, I've been with a skin clinic recently, can you tell? Polynucleotides and Profilo and filler, and what's the difference between them all and what even are they? But if you had put content out there that tells me this is what it is, this is the kind of benefits you'll see, look at this glow up that this client's had. She came in looking all crepey under her eyes, but now 12 weeks down the line, you couldn't even tell. It's those sides of things that people miss the trick on, and they just think, if I just keep posting the same content, it'll hammer home and it'll be okay. But there needs to be a thought process behind it. You need to have a look at what your audience are actually looking and searching for. What information is it they actually need in order to then get them to trust you so that they buy from you? That's the stuff that we need to be seeing more of. And then we can do the whole shouting and celebrating about, here's how the clients felt, and here's the journey they've been on, and here's the results, and here's the offer. But before then, we need to nurture them into, well, why should I trust Suze over someone else? Why should I trust Abigail over someone else? Because the industries we're in are pretty big, growing industries and starting to become, I hate the word saturated because I still think there's enough business out there for everyone. But they are really high demand and a lot of people doing that same thing in the industries.
I mean, everybody's an expert, but
Yeah,
they're
and
not.
that's it. Yep.
And that's the challenge that is for me being post COVID, is that everybody's an expert. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, but they're not.
Yeah,
So how do I showcase myself as somebody that is the expert?
exactly
Like, how
that.
do I do that? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember I went to one BNI event that I got invited to, and after that I was kind of scarred. No offense to anyone that goes to BNI, but wasn't for me. And I remember meeting this. I think he was a tradesman, if I remember right. And he was like, "Oh, I heard you've got an Instagram course," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." PDF. I don't do that now, as an FYI. But yeah, I launched this course, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, totally self-paced. You log in, you do it." Blah, blah, blah. Great. I think my daughter could maybe do it and she could help me with it. And I was like, oh, does she work in social media as well? Oh no, she's at school. She's like 14. And now you're just like, oh my goodness. Like,
Yeah.
great that you want to educate her. But this is far above anything she's going to be able to comprehend at 14.
Yeah.
Yes, she posts some TikToks dancing with her pals on the street. However, she's not going to be able to get you sales in your business at 14, knowing how to actually strategically use social media to grow a business.
Well, that's where I find you can tell me what you think about this, but there's a difference between social media management and social media marketing,
Mm-hmm.
social media content creation,
Yeah.
and social media marketing. It's the
Yes.
marketing behind it that people don't understand. And that comes from a digital marketing strategy. That's your full setup, your
Yeah.
full back end, and how that works of marketing online, selling offline, right?
100%. And I think when people inquire about social media marketing and social media management, to me, you do not so much now because I've fixed all my meshing and things now, but there was a time where people would come to me and say, so I've got £150 or £50 a month, what can I get? And I'm like, not even half an hour's of my time now. Like, it's crazy because they think like, but you just go into Canva and you just do X, Y, Z and you just post it out and da da da. And I'm like, that's nothing like what I do. But I really appreciate that you think that that's all it takes. So
Yeah.
when you tell them that, yeah, it's actually, it's going to be starting at a minimum £800, they're a bit like, oh, right, I didn't realize it was that much. But they don't realize I'll be coming in, like I was saying at the beginning, that 4 week onboarding, it's deep dive. It gets to the point where I almost know what you're basically having for tea every night because I get to know the in depths of what you do that well so that I can actually make this work for you, showcase your brand and your lifestyle and what you're striving for so that it resonates with your audience. Prime example, I work with a menopause GP. I am, touch wood, nowhere near, hopefully, menopausal age or anything like that happen to me anytime soon, all going well. But like I can tell you so much about the menopause now and kind of what that all means, what it all looks like. Bless my mum, I think she loves it because I feed her all the information now. I mean, that's nothing that I'm clued up in at all. It's equally when I was working with like aesthetics practitioners, I never had a bit of filler or anything in my life. I have no idea really about the ins and outs of it, but I got to know the business that well that I could tell people, oh, actually, you said you had a bit
Mm-hmm.
of, crepey under eye. You could get this, this, and this, and it'll all be
Mm-hmm.
sorted. All because it's just really getting to know the deep depths of what these people do so that you can develop a strategy that's actually going to work and resonate with the people on the outside.
And that is so important that I don't think people understand when it comes to content and marketing,
Yep.
right? Content, marketing, they're very different things.
Yes.
Content marketing.
Yeah. Whole different kettle of
That's a
fish.
rule in its own different kettle of fish. And I think, again, running a business doesn't come with a guidebook. It doesn't, just like being a parent doesn't come with a guidebook. Nothing really does. So you have to upskill yourself. You have to find people that you resonate with, that you can get that learning from. And is that
Exactly.
what people can do with you, Abigail? Can they come and get support consultancy with you?
Yes, so I do kind of half day, full day strategy sessions with people. I do the full on management with them. I do content shoots, and actually, coming at the end of this year, I'm looking at doing a 12-week program with business owners to really get their social media and their Instagram into shape so it's actually delivering the results they're looking for. Because I think for a lot of people, social media management isn't achievable at this present moment, and it is a big financial commitment to make.
Yeah.
So there's
And time.
yeah. People don't realise that even when you've got a social media manager on board, you still need to put some background work in. I don't fully take everything off your plate, unfortunately, but I take a good chunk of it off. And yeah, a lot of people, what fills me up is just helping business owners strive in what they do and getting them to the places that they want to get to. If that is the fact that they can go and feel less stressful and can take little Jimmy out to his swimming lesson and watching him progress in his swimming and they don't have to think about social media anymore, that is what lights me up. And that's what I love doing.
Yeah, and it has to come from a strategy, right? It has to come from that and going deep dive into what that business goals are. Going back to the business goals.
Yep, it all drives back to the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so 5 tips, let's just sum them up, right?
Yes.
So I normally ask for 3 tips at the end of every podcast, but we'll just recap your 5 tips
Perfect.
today. So what are the 5 tips to sum up again?
So number 1, you need to be using stories and DMs to sell your services or products on Instagram. Consistency doesn't mean posting every single day. It's creating a consistent pattern that works for you, your business, and your lifestyle. Making sure that your bio speaks to your ideal client and it tells people exactly what makes you different from everyone else, what you do, how you do it, and how they can work with you. Needing to mix up the types of content you're putting out depending on where people are in the client journey, and you need to get using a content strategy and doing it ASAP.
Okay, amazing. So thanks for sharing those 5 tips, Abigail. It's really, really useful for people. And I know that people can connect with you via Instagram. So
Yes.
where can they get you on Instagram?
Yep, just at Rose and Thistle Social. It's quite a long one, and it's and as an AND because it's always a question I get.
Yep, and that will be in the show notes for people to get access to Abigail there.
Perfect.
And she's also got a free gift for everyone that's listening, and
Yes.
it's 8 powerful AI prompts for your business. So talk to us a little bit more about that. That will be in the show notes as well.
Yes, so in there you'll get some prompts to help you with kind of content idea generation, because I know for a lot of people, thinking of the ideas for social media can be half the battle. So there's some prompts in there to help with that. Equally, there's my big juicy bonus prompt, which I think a lot of people do know now, but it's still worthwhile covering because there's the odd person that doesn't. And there's a prompt in there about training your AI, even if it's just ChatGPT, to be your marketing assistant so that they can actually help you create the content ideas as if it's someone who is well versed in the marketing field.
Amazing. I love that. And I think that's a no-brainer for anyone that's listening or watching to go and get access to that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Abigail. It's been an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure to chat today. And I look forward to seeing more of what's coming out with you as well, Abigail. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, take care. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Digital Dominators. I hope today's episode gave you something practical or at least a bit of a boost to keep things going in this mad digital world. If you're enjoying the podcast, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up. There's loads more good stuff on the way and some brilliant guests lined up too. And if you fancy going a bit deeper, come and join the Digital Dominators community. It's totally free and it's where I share bonus trainings, podcast extras and tools to help you build confidence with your digital skills. You'll also get access to my social media prompt calendar, so you can finally stop staring at that blank screen wondering what to post. Just head to technologycoachingonline.com/digital dominators to get started. Alright, that's it from me just now. Stay curious, keep showing up, and I'll catch you in the next one.